what about the Purdue game? You said that you felt like there was still a blueprint for how to beat Ohio
100%.
State. Like, what is that?
What you have to do to be able to beat this team is you've got to be able to capitalize on your chances and limit theirs.
If there is any team on the schedule that can do that, and I'm not just talking historically here, but historically, if there's one team on the schedule that can do that, it's Michigan. From what is literally the chilly snake pit of Columbus, Ohio, as the great Bob Buford once said, it is snowing in old Columbus town today. Somewhere, Hassan Haskins has scored another touchdown, and CJ Stroud has the flu. This is the Rivalry Podcast. My name is Jace. That's Mr. JP.
What up?
It's Michigan and Ohio State, a podcast dedicated to the greatest rivalry in all of sports. Weekly analysis with all eyes on that last Saturday in November, which is coming very rapidly.
And I'm already anxious.
Start taking the antacid now,
Yeah.
kids. From River Radio Ministries, presented by our friends at Elevated Integrity Construction. Wherever you're on social media, we are too at Rival Pod, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook group, on YouTube, where, by the way, we just hit 1,000 subscribers. Thank you. That's the growth this season has
Phenomenal.
been absolutely incredible. We're a small budget podcast. This has been fantastic.
And by that, we mean no budget, really.
So thank you. If you are new here, we've seen obviously a ton of new subscribers, new people following. If you are new to the podcast and you've not hit that subscribe button yet, go ahead and do that. Rate and review wherever you're listening right now. That means the world. That helps us, especially with this whole YouTube partnership thing that we're part of now. This helps us get in front of more eyes and ears, helps monetize it. You get the idea. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for following wherever you're listening right now.
I like to kick off the show with what we call Wheel Route, which, if you are new here, is something we've done for years now, where we talk about the hottest topic in college football. And I feel like at this point in the season, this is an appropriate time to bring this up. So I want to go and I want us to talk about who we think is the Heisman winner right now.
Oh, wow.
Who do you got? Because I heard a lot of talk.
If you handed it out
If you had
today.
if you had to hand it out today, but I'll also allow, like, if you want to predict, realistically come season end, who do you got hoisting that? Because there seemed to be a lot of talk this weekend specifically about a certain person that they were saying had his moment. And I would maybe argue against it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to assume here, and tell me if I'm wrong, I'm going to assume here you're talking about Fernando Mendoza.
100%.
So if you didn't watch, by the way, if you did not watch particularly the fourth quarter of that Indiana Penn State game, just unsubscribe from this channel and get out. Don't do that. I'm kidding. But also, you got to go back and watch it because that was a fantastic end. But what has gotten a lot of folks in Columbus, at least on the Ohio State side, obviously on the Michigan side, this doesn't bother me at all, is when Fernando Mendoza throws that final touchdown pass. It's an incredible catch, and 100%. Indiana essentially, wins the game on that play, essentially. Gus Johnson yells, "Give him the Heisman now!" Put in his back pocket. And that riled up a lot of Ohio State fans because Julian Sayin has been making his Heisman case over the last several weeks as well. I'll let you comment on that, but just to provide context. Actually, I'm gonna, go ahead and comment on that. Like, how does that strike you because it doesn't bother me as a Michigan fan, obviously.
I don't. It's two different sides of it for me because right now, and I'll go first on the whole thing, the whole question, because right now I think he probably does deserve it, but I think he deserved it maybe even before that throw. What I would argue is all the people that are saying he had a Heisman-like game and that was his moment and all that. That's where I'm kind of stunned because I go, he didn't play crazy well the whole game. He was okay. He was fine. The last drive were great. They were good throws, but they were phenomenal catches.
Yeah,
they were great catches. And
I do think that that's where the Heisman moment probably lies more so than the catch. And I would agree with you that it's not so much about that catch. That crunch time, not season saving in one sense, but in another sense, yeah. I mean that matters.
Honestly,
right?
That game was dicey because you had to have watched it, but I had two TVs going on because Ohio State was still on, and I was like, well, I got to see how this plays out.
They were only up by 47, and you just never know.
But I just can't not watch the end of that. So I flipped over on the other TV and had that game going, and he should have been picked off the throw before, and their season should have been in shambles. And he honestly, he got a little bit lucky that the Penn State linebacker was just slightly out of place to be able to pick that off. And even on that throw, I mean, it was a great throw. And I'm not going to be a hater because I think the stats speak for them. Stats are stats.
Stats are stats.
Stats are stats. He's had the best stats of any of these Heisman candidates. And I would say that against a Julian Sayin.
Yeah, I think Sayin's completion percentage is a bit higher. His QB rating's a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But I also would say that you've got to take into account that Mendoza is also rushing.
Oh yeah, that's
like
the
I think he's rushed for like 200 more yards than Sayin because Sayin's not a rusher.
He doesn't need to.
He's rushed for 220. Yeah, Mendoza's rushed for 240 and like 4 touchdowns.
5 touchdowns.
Okay, well apparently
get it right.
Apparently Google has
we
failed
say
me.
Stats are stats for a reason, and you come in here with no stats.
He's rushed a lot more than Sayin has. How about that?
100%.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer the question like this. Yeah. Mendoza is my Heisman favorite right this second after this week, but I don't think that it was because of what he did against Penn State.
Okay, fair enough.
Here's where I'll differ though, and you're going to call me a homer. I think this gets decided in the Big Ten championship. Right now, to me, it is Mendoza and Sayin, and the rest. Those are the top 2 candidates for me. I think Julian Sayin has a case, and I think some of the conservative play calling from Ohio State that we're going to talk about when it comes to Purdue that you saw throughout the season in games like Washington and games like Texas, where they didn't really need him to go and sling the ball like he has the past couple of weeks. They wanted to ease him into that. I think that's been a difference maker in this. But I think that trophy gets decided in Indy. I really genuinely do. And I feel like because obviously I'm an Ohio State guy, I think Ohio State's going to win that contest, and I think that's going to be what puts Julian Sayin number 1.
I think that is a very fair assessment because I think if it really does come down to those 2 guys between Mendoza and Sayin, it's going to be really hard for the committee to not look at that game and go, well, let's just put them together. Or not the committee, but to look at Heisman voters to look at that game and say, okay, well, let's just see what happens here.
Yeah.
And that will be a statement game for both guys.
I think it's going to have to, because in my mind, those 2 teams are going to walk into Indy undefeated.
I would obviously disagree with you there.
Ty Simpson is the only other candidate that I think realistically makes a case for it.
And that would be my answer right now. I would actually lean Simpson over Sayin and Mendoza. And here's one of the reasons why. And as both Big Ten schools, we obviously are not, I don't think we could ever be accused of SEC bias. Okay. We hate as much as the rest. But I do think that there is something to say about the gauntlet that Alabama has had to go through. I mean, we obviously wrote them off early in the season, but the fact that they've had to go through the Georgias, I mean, even teams like Mizzou, but the Georgias, the Mizzous, Vanderbilt, whatever you think of it, like they have had a very difficult schedule. And I don't think it's crazy to say that Alabama has had a more difficult schedule to date than Ohio State, than Indiana. And Ty Simpson has thrown for, I mean, he's like 30 yards off from Julian Sayin. 2491 to 2461.
It takes care of the ball. One interception.
And that's the big thing too is, Sayin's thrown 24 touchdowns. I'm just comparing to Sayin for the sake of this podcast. 24 touchdowns for Julian, 4 picks. That's still really good. 21 touchdowns for Simpson, 1 pick on the whole year with that gauntlet of his schedule. And while he does have Ryan Williams, of course, Julian Sayin does get the benefit of having Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. And it almost goes back to the Mendoza situation where it's, well, how much of that is on the receiver versus the quarterback? Julian Sayin's a great quarterback, but we've seen plenty of balls where, deep balls to Carnell Tate, where it's like, yeah, that ball wasn't necessarily thrown the best, but Carnell Tate went up and got it. How much of that is quarterback? How much is wide receiver? I'm going to lean a little bit more on Simpson here. The reality is, of those 3 guys, I mean, those are, correct me if maybe I'm forgetting somebody, but like those are the 3 guys.
Yeah, I think the other 4th outlier guy is Reed from Texas A&M, and I don't think passing wise he's got the stats to keep up.
And I know you could, people were making a case for Reuben Bain earlier in the year. That seems to have cooled a little. He's still a phenomenal player, but that seems to have cooled a little bit. Rodriguez from Texas Tech was making
the quarterback from UConn, Fagnano or whatever. The dude's got like 25 touchdowns and no interceptions.
And frankly, had he stayed healthy, I'd say Justice Haynes should be in that conversation. Yeah. But given his status, he obviously won't be, which is unfortunate. It's reminiscent of Blake Corum in 22, where if Blake Corum doesn't get hurt in that Illinois game, Blake Corum probably wins the Heisman Trophy.
I won't even deny that.
But That's not the situation we're in. I don't think there's a wrong answer there.
Those are the top three.
And if you don't want to say Simpson, I have no problem saying that the Big Ten championship, should that be the matchup,
I think
would be, which again is obviously no guarantee because Michigan's sitting there going, we could keep you out for a 5th straight year.
I think the only difference here with Simpson versus Mendoza and a Sayin is that Alabama's got that one loss already. And I think that they're going to obviously take that into account. So I'm looking at this going, if the cards play out how I think a majority of people think, Ohio State and Indiana are going to be undefeated in the Big Ten championship.
Betting, I'm not recommending this, but the betting favorites for that game are going to be Ohio State and
so
Indiana.
You're going to go in there with 2 undefeated teams. Alabama, regardless of what they do in the SEC championship, should they go, they're still going to have that one little loss to Florida State at the beginning of the year.
And yet, Ty Simpson was the only one who looked good in that game.
100%.
And so
but
it's
I do think
fascinating.
that stuff's going to end up mattering.
Let's go ahead and talk about your Ohio State Buckeyes here, coming off a big win at Purdue, a win that they really weren't challenged in. When I checked in on this game, I was visiting some family, came back to the house, got back to Columbus, checked the score, and it was 3-0 Purdue, and I thought, just going to not watch any of this game. And in my mind, I'm going to remember that at 1:27 on a Saturday afternoon, Purdue led 3-0.
We are the same person.
And then something happened. And then
because if it was Michigan, I would also have said.
Yeah. And then a few things happened after that.
They were playing good without me watching, so I'm going to continue to curse them as if I'm the reason.
But a game that you never really felt threatened in, I don't think.
No, I mean, obviously Ohio State from the jump just dominated this game. There's a lot of interesting things, and I'm not going to get like Debbie Downer with this game, but I am going to talk about one glaring thing, and I don't even know if it's rocket science for this, but I think a game like this really showed the recipe to beat Ohio State this year, as crazy as that sounds. But you look at this, some of the key stats: Jeremiah Smith, career high in receptions with 10, $137 and a touchdown.
Which is, I'm sorry, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but like, is anybody else surprised that like 10 is like, that's his best? Like, with how, granted, 10 receptions is incredible.
Yeah.
But with how good he is, and also, frankly, given some of the lower level teams that he has lined up against, the Grambling States and whatever, I was a little bit surprised by that.
Yeah, I think once they get up in those games, they just start running it more. So it's like they could stat pad for sure. They were also without Carnell Tate this game, not because of anything serious. It wasn't disciplinary or anything like that. They said he felt a little bit of tightness, and to be honest, they knew it was Purdue. And so they thought, we're going to rest him up because we got a long season still and some bigger games coming up. So they rested him. There were some interesting things. Julian Sayin had a great day, 27 to 33, 303, 1 touchdown. He had an interception, which was one of the same things. Like, he had something very similar against Ohio to start the season where they were in the red zone. And he just kind of threw it there because he knows the receivers he has. And he's like, I can risk this. We're not going to lose to Purdue if I throw an interception here. Still a really bad throw. Still would like to see him take care of the ball in those situations. The very first drive of the game, Bo Jackson goes down, 70-plus yard, rips it off for a touchdown. A great run. Gets called back for a bad block in the back by Jeremiah Smith. Could they have called it or let it go? Maybe, but whatever, still a killer penalty. That same drive, Mylan Graham drops a 3rd down catch, hits him right in the hands. Got to be able to bring those in. Ohio State punted the ball 1 time all day.
It's a pretty good day.
If you're taking away,
that's usually a pretty good day.
If you're taking away the interception, like every possession, for the most part, ended in points. The defense was exactly what you thought. They allowed less than 200 yards total on the game, less than 100 yards passing, less than 100 yards rushing. I looked it up. The Ohio State defense through 9 games has only given up a total of 65 points for an average of 7.2 points per game. They're letting teams score a time. Uno times do teams find the end zone.
I don't love that.
An interesting thing that I found, I'd heard people talk about this a couple of weeks ago, and I looked up the actual stats, and shout out to 11 Warriors. They actually broke this down. But Ohio State is averaging 61.5 offensive plays per game, which ranks 130th out of 136 in the FBS. There's a stat out there, and I can't remember where I heard it, so forgive me. But Ohio State offensively, by the season's end, will have played 1 to 2 games less on offense.
I saw this,
than a majority of the teams in the FBS.
Yeah.
which is an insane stat. And they started to do this last year, and the 11 Warriors broke it down going all the way back to like 2018. 2018, they were like 19th in the nation in how many play calls they had on the offensive side of the ball. And then last year, Ryan Day started to implement this slower paced kind of offensive scheme to really limit his guys. And it goes for the defense as well. Defense is only on the field for like 57 plays a game. And so they've done a really good job of slowing the pace. There's not a whole lot to really talk about with the actual Purdue game, but I do think it's interesting when you look at how Ohio State has played, because there's the superstitious side of me as a fan where I look at this Ohio State season and I go, yeah, I don't know if they've really been tested yet. I think Texas would probably be my best bet of like, this is the closest competition that they've really faced all season.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And I don't really hold a lot of weight to it because it was week one where you kind of expect that stuff. But you saw it this past weekend with a handful of teams. Every team, every single year, it's the tale as old as time.
Yep.
Even the best teams have these weeks where they throw out duds. You saw Indiana this week with Penn State. I'm not going to call Iowa a dud, but you look at an Oregon game where I think a lot of people expected Oregon to take clear control of that. Not like blow them out, but it never to be in question.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I agree with, keep going with your point because I know where you're headed.
You saw that a handful of times where even the best teams at times
Washington
don't look that great.
Washington this week.
100%. They just don't look. I would say Michigan with Purdue last week.
I would agree. Yep.
And you look at these teams and they throw out a dud every once in a while.
Yep.
And Ohio State sure has had a moment, like I would say maybe the Ohio game, where they were
for a while.
But I don't think even in that anybody legitimately thought Ohio State was even in danger.
There's a difference between, again, we talked about this with the Purdue game. There's a difference between, man, this is annoying, and oh my goodness, chuckles, I'm in danger.
And I think Ohio State's had a lot of, oh, well, this is kind of annoying. Like the Purdue being up 3-0 at the end of the first, you're like, well, that's annoying because it should be 7-3 if we weren't dumb and could catch a ball and not have a block in the back penalty.
How do you feel about that?
It's stupid. So they've never really been in danger.
I do not think they've thrown out a dud this year.
No, and that's what makes me nervous is as you get deeper into the season, are you missing that part? Part of what we talked about last season with this Ohio State team and what made them such a dangerous monster of a team come the playoffs was that they lost to Michigan and it lit a fire and they threw out a dud. That was a dud of duds.
Yeah.
And credit to how Michigan played in that game.
And frankly, they'd had one against Nebraska too. And
100%.
And I'll say it. Obviously, Ohio State was more talented than Nebraska last year. Mm-hmm. Ohio State got lucky. Ohio State got very lucky that they did not lose that game to Nebraska.
So you look at games like that, and I don't see, and not to downplay a UCLA or Rutgers, but
also, I know that hurts you as a Rutgers fan.
I do have some thoughts on that next week, but we will.
So answer me this then. Like, what about because I want to move on to UCLA here, but what about the Purdue game? You said that you felt like there was still a blueprint for how to beat Ohio 100%. State. Like, what is that?
I don't think
because I've heard nothing so far that encourages me in any way.
I don't think it's changed. I don't think it's changed. But I think you saw, based off the first quarter, and I want to say the third quarter of this game, Ohio State had one possession. And granted, Ohio State probably, if they could catch a ball and not have a crucial penalty that negates it, they punted in that first quarter. Purdue had two drives in that quarter, one of which was a lengthier drive that led to a field goal, and then they punted the very opening drive. I think what you saw with Ohio State, as dangerous as they are, as efficient as they are, like I just said, they're 130th in the nation in offensive possessions, but they're like 30th in the nation in scoring. So they're crazy efficient. What you have to do to be able to beat this team is you've got to be able to capitalize on your chances and limit theirs. It's the same recipe that you've seen Michigan do the past 4 years, where they go in there and you have one drive that takes 7 to 8 minutes off the clock. Yep. You give them one possession, you get a stop, you go back down, you capitalize again. You're not going to score every single time you get the ball, but it's been a trend with Ohio State the past couple of weeks. They touch the ball, they're getting points.
Yep.
It's just, I think last week was another week where they punted one time and it was at the end of the game. This Ohio State offense doesn't steamroll people because they're not trying to. Not because they can't, because they're simply not trying to. You've got to be able to limit what you allow that offense to do. Because if you give them too many chances, they're going to score enough points. And their defense is so good, you're going to have a hard time scoring. You've got to capitalize on your chances.
You are going to have to get to at least 13 points.
Some would say.
Many have said.
It's not easy, but I think the first quarter of that Purdue game showed me.
Well, and I would say that if there is any team on the schedule that can do that, and I'm not just talking historically here, but historically, if there's one team on the schedule that can do that, it's Michigan. You get as good as Julian's playing, you get him in the most hostile environment he's been in on the road at the end of November. You get a Michigan team whose bread and butter is running the football and whose defense is certainly not the lights out defense that we saw in 21-23, but is a better defense than they probably were last year. And we saw what Michigan's defense was able to do last year. So Michigan is still set up to be a real challenge for Ohio State. And again, obviously last year showed that the records do not matter and Michigan could drop Northwestern and Maryland and still win that game. Like, that's just the way that this rivalry goes.
You can throw all the stats, the style of play, all of that out the window.
If we ever thought that we couldn't, which last year would have been the year that we kind of went, I don't know if you can actually do that this year. Clearly you can. But let's talk before we get there. Let's talk about UCLA. I would like to just remind us when we start talking about UCLA that I feel like for a couple weeks there, the nation got sucked into this belief of UCLA might actually be kind of good, guys. We
wanted to believe.
They had the massive upset over Penn State. They beat Michigan State pretty handily. They had somebody else in there too. Was it Maryland? There was somebody else in there that UCLA beat. They won like three. They won 3 in a row, and we thought, guys, what if UCLA is about to turn around this season? And then Indiana beat them by 40.
And then they lost to a Nebraska team that didn't have Dylan Raiola.
So UCLA continues being bad. And so, like, I don't want us, like, the idea that UCLA, well, look what they did. Like, yes, any given Saturday, we just talked about 2024 Michigan. Yes, any given Saturday, but probably not this one. I've been looking at UCLA, and I think it's more like the University of Nico Iamaleava at Los Angeles, because he does everything. The Unilaw, if you will. Instead of UCLA. Anyway, it's fine. He's a fascinating player to watch, though, because, again, who's leading UCLA in passing? Obviously, Nico. Who's leading them in this game in rushing? Also Nico. So the game plan is Nico. That's going to be the focal point for Ohio State. And if you give Ohio State a focal point, they tend to do pretty well with that.
Yeah, and I think you saw that last year when he came by. What did they call it? Neyland North?
Neyland North.
And we saw how that worked out
for him. Such high expectations for that game.
I did, but not for the reason you're talking about. Tennessee fans, actually, really great people. I sat outside of the stadium and talked to a handful of them getting into the game. Phenomenal people. Was very glad they had a horrible time here in Columbus. But Nico, I think, is going to pose a decent threat for Ohio State. I think he's a good little eye test for what you're going to see come the end of this month.
Yep. That's exactly the note I wrote down.
So that's what I'm curious to see is how they handle him. I do think Michigan has better offensive weapons than what UCLA is going to bring to the table. But you're going to have to also
better offensive line, better quarterback,
better running back. You're going to have to account for other players, but I'm very curious. I'm very curious to see how this defense handles a guy with his skill set. I don't think he's going to be able to beat this team by himself, which is what he's going to have to do. I think the linebacking group that Ohio State has is too fast. I think they're going to be smart and they're going to have a spy on him so that they limit his ability to use his legs, whether that's Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles, or honestly, even at times Caleb Downs.
And that's and I'll be honest, that's all you have to do with this team. Like, Jalen Berger is
kind of underwhelming.
Well, I mean, he's a former Michigan State guy, so trash. Like, he's had, but objectively, like, he's had some good games, but I just don't. I'm not saying teams won't be able to run on Ohio State. I think Michigan obviously is going to try to assert their will in the ground game. I don't believe UCLA can do it with the running back. I, like you, though, am also very interested to see what does Nico bring, because I just don't believe it's going to be through the air. I really do think it's going to be, and that's why I think it's such an interesting comparison to Bryce. You know, for Bryce's, you know, happy feet that he gets where he'll break the pocket even if it's clean and take off.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be very interesting to see what Nico does. And I think they draw up a lot of stuff for Nico specifically. It's not just, nothing's open, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
They draw stuff up for him, and it will be interesting to see if Ohio State accounts for that well. Because he's coming back in, and I don't know, I would assume he'd have a bit of a chip on his shoulder to go, if I'm coming back here, I want to, obviously they want to get the win.
I don't know, because you look at his situation, he had the chance to continue to stay at Tennessee, and he wanted to chase the bag a little bit.
But he also did not play terribly well in that game. And so do you want to come back and redeem yourself a bit? For sure.
But I think you have to be the right kind of player to have that mentality. I'm not convinced that he does. Now, maybe he does. I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying last year he came in and Ohio State defense swarmed him. Columbus was the loudest place he's probably ever played in. Numerous people on that Tennessee team have come on the podcasts and have gone on their channels on social media and talked about when they were asked the question, and they talked about Ohio Stadium. They talked about the horseshoe and how loud it was that night. Now, granted, it's a playoff game and fans were ready to go. I think they're going to be ready to go for this as well. I think he's going to struggle. I really do. For not just because of the defense. I think that's going to play a part. And I'm not one to usually hang my hat on this, but I think the weather's going to make a difference. This is a team from California that's going to be coming to Ohio. It's snowing outside as we're recording this. I don't actually know what the weather's going to be like there, but it's getting chillier. This is a night game.
Yep.
I think stuff like that's going to make a little bit of a difference. I think it made a difference last year with Tennessee.
Yeah.
And he was the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced they've got the firepower to go against the defense that's only allowed 65 points all season, 9 games in. I'm not convinced defensively that they have the personnel to be able to stop an offense that's been one of the most efficient offenses in the nation. I was looking at the stats, trying to see where's a weakness on this UCLA defense. And they've got one, a pretty glaringly obvious one. They give up almost 191 yards on the ground. Now, Ohio State's not the greatest running team in the nation by any means, but I think Bo Jackson has been very serviceable. I forget what he's at, 600 something yards on the season, but he didn't play for like the first 4 or 5 games of the year. He was a backup to a backup for a majority of the season. And then he started to take over, and he's averaging 6 something yards per carry. The guy has the explosive ability to have a good day. We've all waited for that moment. And honestly, this past week against Purdue, he had one where he would have had a phenomenal day on the ground had that one initial run play not get called back.
It's like CJ Stroud's Heisman, except there was holding.
So I'm looking at this going.
I love this podcast, by the way.
I hate it. You look at this guy and you look at this game and you go, if there's ever back-to-back games where you can finally get some real good confidence for a guy like Bo Jackson who needs it, not that he's had down years, but to have that moment where you go, that's the future of the position.
Here it is.
Because you got UCLA, who's second to last in the Big Ten in rush defense. And guess who you get to play next week? Rutgers, who, guess what, has the worst run defense in the Big Ten.
So it would be good if you're an Ohio State fan. Probably good to figure it out the next couple weeks before you play Michigan.
And I think they've started to, but you see this weird little like 3-headed running back room right now where you've got Bo Jackson as the clear starter. You get a couple of Isaiah West runs in there. And then when you get to the end zone or to the goal line, you go, okay, Donaldson, here you go. And he goes,
please hold on to the football.
Please hold on to the football and just duck.
Yeah.
And that's it. James People has essentially been erased from the lineup, it feels like. So I think you're going to see some heavy dosage of running. But honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they just opened up the playbook and said, all right, you know what?
Keep up.
We've got these Lambos and we're going to let them go. I don't know. I haven't heard the status of whether Carnell Tate's going to be good to go or if they're going to take it a little bit of precaution and keep him out. I don't think it's going to matter.
It will not.
I don't think it's going to matter at all. Although UCLA does have a relatively decent pass defense. At least when it comes to the Big Ten. They give up like 170, 180 yards.
UCLA does not. Listen, no one would love this more than me, but UCLA does not have the horses.
No, I think in order for UCLA to be able to pull this off, they've got to get a couple of turnovers. Nico's got to have 100 plus each way. He's got to have 100 and he's got to probably have 200 yards passing and probably 100 something on the ground. Yeah. Maybe even 75 plus.
Yeah.
He's got to be able to convert on third down. He's got to get it to within the 3rd and 4 or less.
Yep.
And he's got to be able to convert. And I
expect UCLA to be aggressive in going for it on 4th down. And I don't think maybe that's like well, Jace, you're stating the obvious. Maybe, but like I feel like UCLA is well aware of we are not going to be able to just punt the ball like crazy. Like there's got to be a little bit of Dan Campbell in them. Go Lions, man. There's got to be a little bit of Dan Campbell in them where they go, what is it? Fourth and 3 from our own 17. We're going for it. There's going to have to, maybe not that, but there's going to have to be some of that.
If you're 40 plus.
And knowing the quarterback you have, Nico is huge. Line him up. Don't put him in shot. Line him up under center. Let him fall forward. Tush push him. Like it should not be, and that should not be a difficult decision. This game, the spread is 31.5. I don't think you cover that.
No, I would agree.
But I do think it's close to it. I've got Ohio State 42-14.
No way.
Do you have that too?
I don't have that exact thing.
Is it close?
Unbelievably close.
Never mind. I hate this podcast.
I have Ohio State winning 42, UCLA 13.
Well, I think they scored a touchdown, set kick, and 2 field goals. So there you go. This podcast is stupid. I hate it so much.
I know we're both going to be wrong.
Well, maybe, but the Purdue game, I said 38-10. It was 34-10. So, I mean, that was pretty good. I also thought Michigan would beat Purdue by a whole heck of a lot. And that just did not happen. Hey, maybe you feel a little bit, excuse me, maybe you feel a little bit like Jonathan Smith and Michigan State. Why? Because why not? When in doubt, I'm just going to throw them into this ad read because it's fun to make fun of them. You're trying to build like a champion, but you clearly don't know how to execute it because Aiden Childs is still on your team, whether he's starting or not. Aaron and the team at Elevated Integrity Construction have a winning pedigree and a team of All-Americans. A juggernaut of the industry, they've built a dynasty of championship builders. If you have a home, church, or business build, go with the folks with integrity right there in their name. It's elevatedintegrity.com. We're also proud members of the Varsity Network powered by Learfield. Once again this season, second year in a row. Appreciate them. The Varsity Network, the must-have app if you call yourself a college football fan. Live broadcasts, on-demand podcasts just like The Rivalry. Free to download. Find the Varsity Network in the App Store and be sure to search for The Rivalry Podcast. We are also really proud to partner with our friends at Homage this year. If you're not familiar with the Columbus area, Homage, phenomenal sports apparel store. If you're watching on YouTube right now at Rival Pod, wearing a Detroit crew neck, because again, it is snowing today. Since 2007, Homage has been helping fans pay homage to the people, places, teams, and moments that matter most to them. They've got phenomenal Ohio State stuff. They've got Detroit sports stuff. They've got pop culture stuff. It's phenomenal, high quality craftsmanship, elite storytelling, and trademarked legendary comfort. If you look in the show description, in the little show notes there on YouTube or wherever you're listening right now, you'll see a link there to Homage. Click that link, get yourself something nice, especially as the weather turns colder. Christmas is coming up. You could get gifts for Thanksgiving if your family's weird and wants to do that. And when you do that, not only will you get some awesome stuff from Homage, you will support the Rivalry podcast as well.
Are you ready for Michigan football? Did you enjoy the bye week?
I enjoyed the bye week because there was no stress.
Isn't it beautiful?
And also it lets guys get healthy, which obviously injuries are a huge, huge thing for Michigan right now. But also it's sad because you want your team to be able to play football.
100%. But you guys have Northwestern. You're traveling to Northwestern this weekend.
Wrigley Field, man.
Gonna be awesome.
We don't even get like... Let me just put this out there. I hate games being played at places that are not football stadiums. Mm-hmm. I hate it. The Pinstripe Bowl, Yankee Stadium, stupid. Wrigley Field, stupid. I'd rather play. I know it's cold out. I'd rather play at the little Lakefront. Lakefront High School
Why build
stadium.
a beautiful place like that and just not play games there?
I don't like games at places that are not. Like these dual, like I get that they're like dual sports, you know, that, like we roll the turf in for this. That's different. That's fine.
For sure.
But this is like when, you know, the Raiders used to play. It's like you can still see the baseball diamond there. I'm like, what are we doing here? Anyway, here's what I would say about Northwestern, because I think it's important to preface this game with this. The days of like 2-10 Northwestern where you beat them by stepping off the bus do not exist anymore. Mm-mm. Now, Northwestern is not, and this should go without saying as well, it's not like upper echelon of the Big Ten or anything like that. But, you know, Northwestern teams in years past, it was, good, Northwestern. freeway. It's kind of like Vanderbilt used to be, right? It's like, oh, thank God, we got Vanderbilt in the SEC rotation.
Win.
There are tougher teams to play. There are also a lot worse teams to play than Northwestern. Northwestern is a very middle of the pack. And I don't mean this disrespectfully, but a very average Big Ten team, right there in the middle. I think they've got, I want to say they're 5-4 right now, 5 wins on the year, win away from bowl eligibility. This is actually a pretty decent team. And so I watched, I cannot hang for these late games, but they had a 9:00 Friday night start against USC. I watched the first half live, went back and watched the second half. I thought, just for comparison to set the table here, I thought Northwestern played USC fantastic, particularly in that first half. I know the game got away from them later on, but I thought that first half, I thought they played better than Michigan played them. And frankly, if they didn't have the pick six that became a fumble touchback thing in the back of the end zone, they probably should have been leading USC at the half in California. And so this is a really solid team. They're not great. They're not bad. They're solid. And so here's what that means for Michigan. So let's talk about Northwestern's offense. This is their bread and butter, and this is where it's kind of Michigan but purple a little bit. This
honestly,
this is a really solid rushing team. They run for about 180 yards a game. For context, Michigan's running about 225. So again, I'd say Michigan's got a better rush game, but those are similar. The threat is going to be Caleb Komolafe. If you're not familiar with him, like you need to.
Dude's a stud.
He is really, really good. He burned USC a number of times. I went back and watched the Nebraska game highlights for comparison. So Emmett Johnson from Nebraska, really good running back as well. Komolafe's numbers almost exactly identical to his in that game. In a game that Northwestern very easily could have won. They're going to rely on the rush game. The passing offense is pretty non-existent for Northwestern. When they got Preston Stone from SMU, I was actually pretty high on Northwestern. I thought, oh man, this team might be, I didn't think they were going to be great. I probably guessed they would be about here, but I assumed that they would rely on the pass game a bit more than they actually do. Thought this could be the strength. It's not. It is the run game. However, they will throw the ball. They just don't throw it downfield, right? And so you'll see this with teams, especially if they feel a bit overmatched, at least on paper, where they'll throw, and USC did this despite the fact, right? But they'll throw a screen pass. They'll throw a little dump pass, just behind the line of scrimmage to the running back. They'll throw short to intermediate passes. They're not taking bomb shots, right? Yeah. That can be really dangerous, though, because it allows you to do a couple things. It allows you to chip away at a team, keep maybe a more talented defense, and like Michigan, a talented defense like Michigan's, keep them on the field for long lengths of time. It allows you to shorten the game up. This is what they did with USC. There was one possession for each team in the first quarter of the USC game. It was 7-7 at the end of the first quarter. They both had one possession. If you're Michigan, that's dangerous. Because of Michigan's kind of feast or famine offense, Northwestern just holding the ball and just driving is how you beat this Michigan team. So that's a bit of a concern. On the defensive side for Michigan, then, you don't need to pass rush this team. It's very similar to what we talked about with Michigan State, with what we talked about with Purdue. You don't need Wink Martindale, who listens to this podcast, obviously. You don't need to send 5 guys. You don't. You can pass rush with 3 and play safe and play smart. That's all you need to do for this offense. Also, probably tackle, because if Komolafe gets into the open space, you better catch him or he is gone. On the defensive side of the ball, Wildcats defense, it's actually a pretty decent pass defense. I think they're top 20 pass defense. It's a fringe top 30 overall defense. So again, firmly average, above average, middle of the pack, slightly above type of defense here. What's going to be a struggle for Northwestern is they are an incredibly average rush defense. Michigan's bread and butter obviously is going to be relying on the run game. They're going to still throw the ball around because they need to. They need to get the reps for Bryce. You don't want to just be one-dimensional. But Michigan is going to rely on the ground game, and that is where Northwestern is exploitable. However, Michigan obviously dealing with some injuries. Justice Haynes, not going to be in this game. It's going to be Jordan Marshall leading the pack again. But that's where Michigan's going to try to have success because that's probably where Michigan can have the most success. The only teams to score more than 28 on Northwestern, USC and Oregon. Those offenses are far and away above where Michigan's at. Michigan plays a slower paced run game based offense. Nebraska got to 28 because they had a special teams kickoff return for a touchdown, which Michigan special teams would never because we don't know where to line up to catch a punt.
I don't think they know they can.
This is going to be a solid unit to test Michigan's offensive line. Michigan's offensive line has been much improved in recent weeks. And you could look at it and say, well, that's competition. Maybe. They played well against Washington. They played well against Michigan State. They played well against Purdue. This will be a good unit to test them. Again, because every game matters heading into the last Saturday in November. And I would also say if Bryce does have success through the air against them, that's a good sign. It doesn't mean, oh my goodness, everything's fixed. But coming off a bye week, coming off some of his performances, you're going to want to see Michigan throw the ball to establish the run. They're still going to try to run the ball, but you got to throw the ball to establish the run. Before I give a prediction, what are your notes on this from the Ohio State side? That's the more detailed Michigan breakdown of this team.
Yeah, I don't think you really missed anything there. This defense from Northwestern, I would say, is slightly above average. Like you said, they're 32nd in yards per game, 21st in passing. Their lone weak spot is where their rushing defense is. I think they're like 60-something in that. The strength of Michigan, if we talked about it all season long, is the run game. Now, granted, is that hindered a little bit because Haynes is out? Yeah, absolutely.
But also, we obviously saw Jordan Marshall.
Jordan Marshall has been a stud. He's stepped up every single time he needs to. I don't really even think that there's been that big of a drop off. I mean, Justice Haynes, no disrespect to him, but that guy's a Heisman level player. Jordan Marshall is going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's going to be right up there as he continues to develop.
Yeah, that's a red shirt. As a reminder, that is a red shirt freshman.
Yeah, it feels like everything that Michigan does well is everything Northwestern does poorly. And so I expect this to be a game where Michigan's in clear control. Right now, they're 9.5-point favorites, which honestly kind of surprised me that it wasn't double digits. This felt like a 12 to 13.5 point spread, something like that.
Oh, I disagree with that, but go ahead.
It feels like a game where you're not going to see Bryce do anything crazy. He's not going to have this miraculous game where he goes out there and throws for 300 or anything like that. I honestly think he's going to just be okay. He'll look better than he did the past 2 weeks. I fully expect that. I don't
think they put a lot of pressure on him in this game because how you lose this game is you turn the ball over.
You turn the ball over, you give Northwestern short yardage, and you let Caleb Komalafe go off and connect on some touchdowns. They don't have anybody else that's a real threat, in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, they have Griffin Wilde is probably their top wide receiver, but again, they just don't take a lot of deep shots.
He's got 300-something yards on the ground.
I think it's 4 or 5.
I didn't think it was up there.
But that's not where they're going to go. And again, that doesn't mean that it's not talented players. Because again, you could look at Michigan and go, well, Andrew Marsh doesn't have XYZ. Yeah, but you better cover him.
Well, and you also look at
Donovan McCulley. Well, but if you leave him wide open, they're going to torch you.
You also look at the Purdue game and you go, well, they didn't have Devin Mockabee, and it was still a close game.
Sure,
so you could throw everything ultimately out the window. Yep. But that's where I look at this game and I go, well, you've got a really, really good, strong running game versus a defense that's been susceptible to that.
Yep.
It's Michigan's bread and butter. It's not like they're going to have to change their game plan to fit what Northwestern does poorly. They're going to go, oh, nice. They already do what we're really good at really bad. This is going to be perfect for us. My score prediction for this is 27 Michigan, 14 to Northwestern.
We're not far off. We're not far off. Let me say this, and then I'll give you my prediction here. I think that this is likely to be the most Big Ten game of Big Ten games, right? This is not crazy rocket science. Again, if you're new here and you're here for the X's and O's,
look, I don't
you're
know.
Looking for a different podcast.
I don't know. Iowa plays USC, and the most Big Ten thing in the world could happen.
By the way, just shout out Oregon. You are now officially part of the Big. I know you won the conference last year, but you are now officially part of the Big Ten. You beat Iowa in a monsoon and snow and sleet at Kinnick, 18-16. Mm-hmm. Congratulations, Oregon. You're part of the Big Ten now. I expect it's going to be kind of similar. Not in the weather, maybe not in the weird score, but I really believe that Michigan is not, like you said, Michigan's not going to deviate from the plan. I think you're going to get Bryce involved in this game because you need to. Bryce is not a bad quarterback. Has he lived up to, we talked about this, we argued about this, and people went off in our comments. It was great because sometimes you just do stuff for clickbait. However, has Bryce been up to expectations? No. Is he a good quarterback? Yes. And so I expect Michigan. Okay, see, and there you go again. Michigan's going to get Bryce involved in this game, but they're also not going to be afraid to move away from the passing game back to the run game. The passing game is going to exist in this game for one reason: to open up the run game. That will not be the case throughout the last 2 games of the year, I don't think. But I do think that Michigan's passing game mostly exists to open up the run game. That's what I expect to see. Michigan defensively, I don't expect them to, please don't deviate from what you've been doing. You don't need to send the house on this guy. If you do, Northwestern is smart enough and talented enough to just dink and dunk and screen pass. And it's the same thing we gave for Michigan State and Purdue. You don't need to send the house because they don't have the horses. If you decide we're going to send everybody, they will carve you up and go on these long drives. That's how Northwestern's going to beat Michigan, is if they can hold on to the ball for 6-7 minute drives. Purdue did some of this, but they're going to have to cash it into touchdowns as well. I think that is where we do have to mention Michigan's injury list is significant. We've obviously talked about Justice Haynes being out. That is actually the least of my concerns. Donovan McCulley went out in the Purdue game. I have no inside information on this. I expect he is probably good to go.
Yeah.
The whole injury situation feels very unclear. One, Michigan's coming off a bye week and is certainly not going to give updates. Sherrone Moore is a master of coach speak. If he says we'll see, it means who knows. Actually, if Sherrone Moore says we'll see, it means absolutely not. But Michigan's been very mum on their injuries, understandably so. I expect McCulley will probably be good. I also, and again, no inside information on this, I expect Barham will probably be good to go as well. That would be big because I don't have any clue what the status of Cole Sullivan is. I don't have any clue what the status of Jimmy Rolder is. That's where I think Purdue had success. And I'll give credit to Purdue, but I'll also argue that Michigan playing like their freshman linebackers, right? Nate Owusu-Boateng is a great player, but him being in there is because he has to be. And that's no disrespect to him at all. I think he's going to be a fantastic player, but I think that's why you have success is there was speculation that Michigan sent more guys at the quarterback in that game because when you've got a true freshman out there, the best way to mitigate damage from him, and again, that's no disrespect, is to just send him and let Ernest Hausman sit back and kind of patrol and all that stuff. Barham being back is going to be very important for this team moving forward, particularly obviously for the Ohio State game, but I think in this game too. I think it matters whether or not he's on the field.
Yeah.
I don't have any updates beyond that. I don't really have any updates on the injuries at all, but like that's kind of that's the way that for me personally that I'm walking into this game. I expect to see Barham. Just personally, I expect to see him. I expect to see McCulley. I have no clue beyond that. But that's something to keep an eye on because that really does change the dynamic for Michigan, especially a defense that sometimes, for God knows why, wants to really rotate guys in instead of just playing your best players all the time.
So what do you got prediction-wise?
Old-fashioned Big Ten slobber knocker at Wrigley, 24-13.
Okay, yeah, we were pretty close.
And I don't think that Michigan really pulls away in this game. And I'm coming in saying that I don't expect them to. And so when this game is, 17-6 in the fourth quarter or whatever, 17-13, I'm not going to be surprised by this. And so that sounds like, I genuinely believe that this is how this game is going to play out. 24-13 is my final score prediction. I don't think any part of this game is comfortable. If for some reason Michigan wins by 20 points, color me shocked. I just don't. And it's not a knock on Michigan. I just think Northwestern's better than the name Northwestern indicates. And I think the way this team wants to play lends itself to hold on to your butts for a low scoring game. And I think the injuries for Michigan will make a difference. Do you think it ever gets
to from the this is annoying to, oh no, I'm in danger category?
I think it has potential. Yeah. I don't know that I would predict that.
No.
But I do, because I do think that there's a line there where, again, Michigan's in control, but it's really uncomfortable. Not because, Michigan should be up by more, but because I genuinely think this game is probably going to be close. This game probably should be close. but Michigan should have control of a close game, if that makes sense. Let's go ahead and hit college football preview predictions, college football pick'em, along with our stupid genius. We are terrible at picking upsets.
I was close.
Cool.
I was close.
Stupid genius, if you're new here, must be a 5.5 point underdog at time of recording on Monday morning. If you get your pick correct, you get whatever the spread was at time of recording. So you're up 23.5 to 6.5.
Who did you take last week?
I took...
Because I was Stanford over UNC, and they only lost by 5. I thought I was going to hit on that one.
Look here. I don't want to say.
Say it.
BYU.
I remember that because
we are bad at this. So your super genius could pop up at any point, but let's pick the best games from this week. And again, super genius could enter in at any point. Let's start with one of the best games of the week. There are actually some really great college football games this weekend. There's at least 4 or 5 that are outside of our respective teams that are worth watching. This one is one of the big ones. Number 10, Notre Dame at number 24, for some reason, Pitt. Notre Dame, 10.5 point favorites here. The ACC is terrible.
Up for grabs all across
and
the
so
board.
Pitt has everything to play for. So does Notre Dame, because I don't know if you remember this, because the national media seems to have forgotten. Notre Dame lost 2 games already. One of them to a good A&M team, one of them to Miami. Anyway, Notre Dame cannot afford a third loss. 2 losses right now, given who they've lost to, should knock them out of the playoff. But here we are. Notre Dame at Pitt, 10.5 point favorites. What do you got?
I have Notre Dame. I don't think Pitt
Not a chance?
No, I think it'll be pretty one-sided. I don't think Pitt has the firepower to keep up with them. I think Jeremiah Love is going to have a great day on the ground. And I think this game is essentially going to knock Pitt out of the ACC title.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take Notre Dame too. As much as I want to take Pitt, I mean, this is a game we have to pick, but it just, I don't think it knocks Pitt out of the ACC title because this is a non-conference game. So like that won't affect them. That won't affect them at all, which is wild. The ACC is just absolutely awful. But yeah, I'd love to see Pitt do it, obviously, but I think Notre Dame. I'd love to see Notre Dame just knocked out of the playoff contention. How about number 12, Oklahoma, at number 4, Alabama? This is probably the premier mid-afternoon game. Alabama, 7.5 point favorites here. This is do or die for Oklahoma. I mean, once again, Oklahoma has no margin for error. Alabama, despite the terrible Florida State loss, I mean, Alabama can afford a second loss.
Yep.
They probably can't afford a third, but they can afford a second. So Oklahoma needs this win more than Alabama does, but Alabama at home and favored. What you looking at?
I've got Bama. I've said it for weeks now. I think since that week 1 game, they've just been on a roll. They've played a gauntlet of a schedule. Oklahoma, I really like. I like John Mateer. I like that defense. But Ty Simpson and them are just playing at a different level.
John Mateer has not. Every week that we've picked Oklahoma since the surgery, I've said this, but John Mateer does not look the same after the surgery. It's been likened to Curtis Rourke having that surgery and just not looking the same after that. And if I'm proclaiming Ty Simpson as my Heisman favorite right now, I mean,
I know who you're picking.
Alabama, Oklahoma's defense against Alabama's offense should be a fantastic matchup.
The college football fan of me wants Oklahoma to absolutely go out there and torch them just to cause the chaos.
But I do think that we saw Ole Miss pick apart Oklahoma's defense already. I have a feeling Alabama may do the same. But I'd also say that Alabama still can't run the ball terribly well. And so that this may be a closer game than people think. I happen to think Alabama may win this one by a couple scores here. Iowa at USC. Iowa obviously coming off just that heartbreaker against Oregon. Was right there for him. Couldn't quite get it done. Iowa is a good football team.
They are.
Like, we got to admit, Iowa's a good football team. The problem is that USC is a good football team too. SC favored by just under a touchdown at 6.5. I suppose that depends on how you want to look at 6.5 point favorites. So basically touchdown favorites in this game. Iowa needs this game. Iowa could still make a playoff push. But they've got no margin for error, and they're going to have to claw their way back in. They're going to need some help now. They must win this game.
I just don't see it happening. I've got USC, but wouldn't it be one of the most Big Ten things for USC to lose to Iowa this weekend? And I think it could happen.
Oh, it absolutely
There's
could.
a chance. Iowa, I mean, you saw what they did with Oregon. That was a gritty, low-scoring game.
Now, granted, the weather plays a big factor in that
For
game.
sure.
But Dante Moore is still Dante Moore.
100%. And they still have got the playmakers.
And we have seen, while I believe that Jaden Iamaleava while I believe that USC is one of the best offenses in the country, because they are, and I believe Jaden Iamaleava is a phenomenal quarterback. We have seen, we saw Jaden Iamaleava have a rough game at Nebraska. I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you talked earlier about teams throwing out duds. That was a dud for USC.
100%.
No doubt about it. I don't expect that to happen again. Now, could it? Yeah, because Iowa's got a really good defense. But at home, Iowa's coming off an emotional loss. And I just don't, I think it's hard to come off a loss. Ask Penn State. It's hard to come off an emotional loss to Oregon and turn around and come right back. Now, if you're a Michigan fan, you're cheering for Iowa in this game. Because if you're looking at Big Ten championship stuff, and again, this obviously assumes that Michigan beats Ohio State to get to maintain one loss. They would have the head-to-head tiebreaker there. But you've got USC, Iowa, and Oregon all sitting there for, if you're Michigan, kind of sitting there ahead of you or right in line with you. You obviously lost to USC. Well, Oregon just took care of Iowa for you. 2 losses in the Big Ten. You need Iowa to knock USC out because USC plays Oregon later. And you're going to need USC to be able to beat Oregon. There's also, just as a tangent, there's also this side of you, if you're Michigan, where you go, actually, 10-2 with a win over Ohio State, and I don't have to play Indiana. That's probably a playoff spot. And so while I would never cheer for that, there is that little bit of you in the back of your head that goes, if we don't have to play the 2 best teams in the country back to back, and we can just go to the playoff.
I mean, you saw it benefit Ohio State last year.
We might go ahead and just do that. Anyway, I will take USC in this game. If you're a Michigan fan, your rooting favorite is probably Iowa in this one. And then the premier net matchup, this was the only bummer on Saturday, was that there was no good primetime matchup.
Yeah.
Because Navy Notre Dame certainly wasn't. It was for like 10 minutes. Okay. Texas at Georgia. This game, man. This is the game. This is the game of the week. Georgia, by the way, 6.5 point favorites at home. Georgia will not die.
No.
Texas somehow won't die either.
I ain't hear no bell.
Texas absolutely eliminated from the college football playoff if they lose this game. Georgia would not be with a loss, but I mean, things get dicey. Things get dicey for both these teams because Texas still has to play A&M. Georgia still has to play Georgia Tech. And I realize that those are maybe not comparable, but also...
Yeah. No, valid though.
Haynes King? I mean, come on. But Texas, Georgia, here's my question this game. I'll let you pick first. Which Arch Manning am I going to get?
I think that's the most valid question. Yeah.
I mean, am I going to get Ohio State Arch Manning? Am I going to get Florida Arch Manning? Am I going to get Kentucky Arch Manning? Or am I going to get 4th quarter Mississippi State Arch Manning? Oklahoma Arch Manning?
Vandy
Arch
Manning.
I don't know. But that's the big question here.
Yeah, it saddens me because this is the game that starts the exact same time Ohio State does. So
what could we watch? Ohio State blowing out UCLA or Texas, Georgia?
Well, I will be at the Ohio State game,
well,
so I will be watching that one.
Well, okay.
But will I also have my computer turned on with that game pulled up? Absolutely.
Follow on Instagram and Twitter at RivalPod.
Yes, I'll be there. So I am sad because I'm going to miss most of it. I know it's unpopular. I'm going Texas. in this one. Georgia, I know that they've got the one loss to Alabama, who I've talked about for weeks as being this elite level team, and I think that's if you count anything as a good loss, that would sure as heck be one. I just feel like there's always another moment in time where Georgia's going to have another underwhelming performance.
Yeah,
and it feels like with the way that Texas has started to kind of put it together, it has the vibes of it being this.
Yeah.
Where nobody, I think a lot of people probably think Georgia's going to win this one. They're not thinking it's going to be some blowout, but a majority of people probably feel pretty confident in that, given of exactly what you said. What arch are they going to get?
Yeah.
But I think this Texas team is starting to kind of get pieces together. Arch is starting to get more comfortable. He's starting to kind of figure out what he needs to do. He's played well. And I think this has all the momentum for Texas to come in and hand Georgia a second loss. and people really start to question if you haven't already, okay, is Texas not trash?
Yeah, they are though, and that's the thing. It's like, and they're not trash. They're not, But again, you have 2 losses. Ohio State, I'll give you. The Florida loss is a bad loss, and you are so fortunate. It took overtime to beat Kentucky. It took overtime to beat Mississippi State in a game that you were down big. And it's like, you could look at the comeback and be like, look at this comeback. You should never have been down in the first place. Georgia murdered this team. Sorry, can I say murdered? That's going to hurt the algorithm. Georgia, this team, okay? Like,
thank you for that.
I don't buy Texas, and yet I think they could win this game. I'm picking Georgia. But here's the thing. I'm trying to think about this also, so pick Georgia, but I'm thinking about Michigan rooting interest here, right? Michigan on the cusp of the college football playoff, obviously will have to beat Ohio State. They beat Ohio State, that's the best win anybody has this year. 10-2, you're in the playoff. I just firmly believe that. What's the rooting interest if you're Michigan? In one sense, I'd say it doesn't matter. You get your job done, doesn't matter. But there's a part of me that goes, do you kind of want Texas to lose this game? Like, everything in me wants to cheer for Texas to upset Georgia, but do you kind of want Texas to just drop that third game, just be done with it so you can kind of surge past them so they don't end up with, they beat Georgia and then they beat A&M. They have 3 losses. They beat Georgia, but they lost to Ohio State and A&M, but those are good teams, and so we're going to put them in anyway, and I don't know. Michigan, just get your job done. I'll take Georgia, but I'll cheer for Texas. Stupid Genius. We haven't called it yet, so your upset pick of the week, 5.5-point underdogs. Who do you have this week?
This one feels pretty safe to me. I got number 14, Virginia at Duke. They're 6.5-point underdogs right now. Duke just lost to UConn.
UConn is 6-3.
But it's UConn.
Okay, Virginia just lost as well.
Did they lose to UConn?
They did.
I hate UConn.
What? I don't care. Never mind. This is some weird Rutgers rivalry.
Look, you don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
No one.
I do.
Hates UConn.
I hate UConn.
I have a friend.
You know who hates UConn?
Rutgers. I have a friend who will remain nameless, who for a very long time thought UConn was like the territory in Canada.
What's their name rhyme with?
I can't tell you. YUKON. They thought it was UConn, and then they saw it, and then they went, oh. I have a friend who thought that.
I know this person, I think.
I don't know if you do. I don't know. It doesn't matter. They will remain nameless. Different UConn. Anyway, that is a terrible pick because Virginia is trash. The whole ACC is garbage.
They're going to beat Duke.
Okay.
Duke's like 5-4.
You know what? I can't say anything because my stupid Genius upset pick of the week. Every time that I've picked,
don't shoot.
If you're watching on YouTube right now,
like 2 games.
If you're watching on YouTube right now, I got an Arkansas helmet on the desk. And again, if you're brand new, my wife is from Northwest Arkansas. My in-laws, my brother-in-law, they all still live down there. Huge Hog fans. Every time I've picked Arkansas, it's not just been to win brownie points. It's because I've really believed in them. And they've always let me down because it's Arkansas football and they don't have a head coach. However, they have got their big rivalry game, the battle for the Golden Boot. They've got LSU this week in Baton Rouge. LSU looks unhinged. Absolutely off the rails. Arkansas are 5.5-point underdogs. They are 2-7 this year, but they are only 5.5-point underdogs. And by the way, 5 of those Arkansas losses by 1 score. If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, every day would be a Merry Christmas. I get it. This is not far off from being a 7-2 Arkansas team, if you want to spin it that way, which I do for this exact
haven't
moment.
They won 2 games?
They have. Soon to be 3. Arkansas. Ooh, big.
I'm not joining you.
Razorback.
I'm not joining you this time. Maybe
on.
I'm the bad luck charm because usually I join you in that because it's just fun to do.
Maybe this is the time. Maybe this is the time.
I've missed my moment.
You can still pick Arkansas if you want to.
Or just don't.
Okay. We are both taking our teams, Ohio State and Michigan, to win this college football weekend. Great slate of games. Great slate of games. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please go ahead and do that. If you want to get yourself some rivalry merch, we have custom Rival Pod merch at rivalpod.com. Get yourself something from Homage in the show notes below. And be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and follow on social media at Rival Pod. The Rivalry Podcast is part of the Varsity Network from Learfield and the River Podcast Network from River Radio Ministries.
New episodes out every Monday.
Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening right now, and follow on social media at RivalPod and RivalPod.com.
And if you like what you hear, share with a friend so they can listen too.